There is a moment early in some relationships where a stranger starts to feel like a mirror. They like the music you like. They've read the books you've read. They felt the exact things you've felt, almost word for word. It feels less like meeting someone and more like recognizing them. It feels like fate. It is rarely fate. In psychology, this is called mirroring, and on its own, it's not sinister. Mirroring is something all of us do, unconsciously, when we want to build rapport. Therapists do it, negotiators do it, even infants do it with their mothers within the first hours of life. But mirroring has a shadow version, a version that isn't unconscious at all, a version that is studied, timed, and deployed, specifically in the first few weeks of knowing someone, to manufacture a sense of closeness that hasn't actually been earned. Today we're going to take that tactic apart, piece by piece, so you can see it before it sees you. Let's start with the legitimate version, because you can't recognize the weapon without understanding the tool. Mirroring, in its natural form, is a synchronization behavior. When two people are genuinely comfortable with each other, their speech patterns start to align, their posture starts to align. Even their breathing can fall into rhythm. This is sometimes called the chameleon effect, a term coined by psychologists Tanya Chartrand and John Bargh in the late 1990s, after they observed that people unconsciously mimic the mannerisms of those they're interacting with, and that this mimicry actually increases liking between them. This is supposed to happen gradually. It's supposed to be bidirectional, both people doing it to each other, without either one tracking it. It's a byproduct of comfort, not a method for manufacturing it. The manipulative version flips the causality. Instead of comfort producing mirroring, mirroring is used to manufacture the appearance of comfort, fast and on purpose. Here's what it tends to look like in practice. In the first conversation, the manipulator listens far more than they talk. Not because they're shy, because they're collecting your values, your wounds, your taste, the shape of your loneliness. People who do this well are often highly attuned to emotional cues. Researchers studying manipulative personality traits have noted that some individuals high in traits like Machiavellianism are skilled at reading others precisely because they treat people as problems to be solved rather than as ends in themselves. By the second or third conversation, the mirroring begins. Not crude copying, that would be obvious. It's selective. They surface an opinion you stated days ago and present it as something they've always believed. They claim a niche interest you mentioned once in passing as a core part of who they are. They describe a childhood wound suspiciously similar in shape to one you confided in them. What you experience on your end is uncanny resonance. What's actually happening is closer to a cold read, the same technique used by psychics and con artists, where vague, broadly applicable statements feel devastatingly specific because you, the listener, are doing the work of connecting the dots. The manipulator isn't reading your mind. They're handing you a mirror and calling it a window. This is the part most people get wrong. They assume only naive or desperate people fall for this. The opposite is often true. Intelligent, self-aware people are sometimes more vulnerable to mirroring, not less, because they pride themselves on noticing patterns, and the manipulator is handing them exactly the pattern they're primed to notice, themselves. There's also a deeper mechanism at work, one psychologist calls self-verification theory. We are drawn to people who confirm what we already believe about ourselves, including our pain. If you believe you're misunderstood, someone who claims to instantly understand you doesn't just feel good. It feels true in a way that bypasses scrutiny. The relief of being finally seen can override the slower, more skeptical parts of the mind that would otherwise ask, how does this person already know so much so fast? So how do you tell engineered mirroring from real connection? A few signs. First, speed. Genuine resonance with another person usually deepens over months through actual shared experience, disagreements survived, ordinary days witnessed. Manufactured resonance peaks almost immediately and then plateaus because it was front-loaded. Second, specificity without history. They seem to know your type of pain without having seen you experience it. Real understanding is usually earned through observation. Manufactured understanding arrives pre-packaged. Third, asymmetry under pressure. This is the most reliable tell of all. Mirroring built on genuine compatibility tends to hold up during conflict. Two people who actually share values usually still resemble each other when things get hard. Engineered mirroring collapses under disagreement because it was never really about alignment. It was about access. The moment you stop reflecting their narrative back at them, the resemblance disappears, sometimes overnight. None of this means connection is fake, or that finding someone who feels instantly familiar is automatically a warning sign. Real recognition between people does happen, but recognition that arrives instantly, that requires no friction, and that conveniently confirms everything you already believe about yourself, deserves a second look before a second date. The mirror is not always a window. Sometimes it's a door that only opens one way.